This is Talk of the Devils, the athletic show dedicated to Manchester United. And coming up, well, it's four wins in a row for Michael Carrick's Manchester United. A nice, easy, straightforward win over Tottenham Hotspur in a game where Cristian and Romero sets up the skittles and then Albeit and Bruno knock them down. 4 games, 4 wins. Michael Carrick is on cloud 9. Manchester United fans are smiling from ear to ear. Hello again, it's me, Carl Anker, in the host seat. Ian's going to be back on Wednesday following the West Ham fixture. I'm joined today by Andy Mitten and Mark Critchley. We've all been to Old Trafford. How are we doing, friends?
Good, but pleased with that today. And I'm still building confidence in Manchester United under Michael Carrick. I'm still not there in terms of, I wouldn't have been surprised if Manchester United lost today. And I speak as an optimist, would have said the same last week against Fulham. Lovely to win, to keep a clean sheet, to score good goals, to make it 4 out of 4. You're thinking, how long can this last? And the early game means you start to look at the other results and you're really invested in it. And you're hoping that someone drops points and you're thinking, well, Chelsea, they're not going to drop points against Wolves, but then Villa do drop points. And you're like, wow, no way did I think we've got a chance of going past Villa. And then it's Liverpool City tomorrow, so one of them's going to drop points as well. I think it's enjoyable, all this.
Critch, is it enjoyable now? Looking at a live table? Calm? Relieved?
I'm bad with live tables. You're much better than me with live tables. I almost like forget that the league table is a thing or that league position matters. I get so swept up in the game. But it's certainly better to look at now than it was, at the start of last month. I'm positive. And Andy's right. If City lose tomorrow at Anfield and they don't have a great away record this season by any stretch of the imagination, then United are 3 points off second. And it's like nosebleed territory considering where we thought we were just a month ago. And we were always going over those games and those points that were dropped and where they could be if they hadn't dropped those points. Well, I almost don't even want to ask that question now, because imagine just it'd be a title challenge would be on, right? That's how quickly things can change. And one thing I think we always said was that, and Villa proved this, it was that if you start to pick up the wins and put them together in a string, then suddenly the complexion changes just because everybody's not that good this season. And right now, it's a total 180 on the feeling after that Leeds game. And everybody's looking up and they've got every reason to do so as well.
I reckon the league table thing, Carl, is because me and you are proper nerds for it. And I sort of waited to go ahead today and then I look at the live league table and I hate myself for doing it at the same time. But I think historically, it's because we're from cities, we look at league tables, whereas Critch is from somewhere where they get the newspapers like 2 days late. So he learned never to rely on it. So it's forged in history, this, why we're into it and he's not.
Yeah, I only just got the news about Ruben by carrier pigeon last week. So it's all new to me, this.
Amazing. We will get into the victory over Spurs very quickly. But first of all, I just want to read out a message from Liam, who sent in an email, devilspod@theathletic.com. They want to say thank you to Andy Mitten. So the message is, hi guys, just want to say how amazing Andy's speech was at the Munich Memorial. His words, especially about the relationship between England and Germany, stood out to me. It showed that despite all the conflict just a decade prior, sport unites us all. Andy, you've done a brilliant piece on The Athletic that people can read as well, why remembering the Munich air disaster matters. And we just want to say thank you for what you did on Friday.
Cheers. I wasn't comfortable writing that piece, actually. It's the first piece in this year. I don't know, but I've just seen the response to it. So the club asked me to do a speech. I was happy to do that. Lots and lots of people were there. It was really impressive. And then you look round and like Edwin van der Sar's just come along because he's in Manchester. And then, there's Andy Burnham, the mayor of Manchester. And I'm sort of making like little, I'm not going to say jokes because it was a serious thing. But that point about the war, that came from Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, legendary player, later Bayern Munich chairman. And he said it on the 60th anniversary. And it just really struck with me that the Munich air disaster was only 13 years after the Second World War, which, although there were other adversaries, it was the UK against Germany. That was a major part of it. And relations were obviously very raw given what had happened for obvious reasons. So for the Germans to show their compassion and to show that they were decent people, I'd never seen it from that angle, so I thought it was worth repeating and carrying that message back from Germany. So there's a lot of Munich stuff around the game today, and I think the club do it well. I thought the Stratford end looked good with the big surfer flag and the Red Army one. I like the Flowers of Manchester. I think some Tottenham fans didn't really know what was going on and they were singing. I don't think it was done maliciously, because there were Tottenham fans who were applauding as well. I'll give them a pass on that. I know there's been some criticism online because they made a noise, but I thought it was done well, and there were members of families of the people who died. Yesterday, I met this lady, Duncan Edwards' cousin, she'd driven up from Cheltenham. She was telling me how he used to train with tins of baked beans because there were no like footballs when he was a kid. I'm like, I love learning new stuff all the time about this. And no, it's very sad, but I think something the club and Manchester United fans do really well. And final point on this is it's all pretty new. One of the points I made in the speech, 20 years ago, there was a dozen people on that forecourt. And that's not a criticism. But now I think it's wonderful that it is remembered so well. And I think the important thing is that it is remembered. And people are getting off the screens. They're coming down in real life. They're speaking to other humans. And Critch said today, it's a real big part of Manchester United's history, but also community. Really important, these things.
It is remembered well. 73,000 people at Old Trafford on Saturday to watch this 2-0 victory and to remember the Flowers of Manchester. Okay, let's get into the result. Manchester United 2, Tottenham Hotspur 0. This was fairly straightforward, wasn't it, Critch? Unchanged lineup, get the win.
Unchanged lineup again. Well, I mean, I guess there was a change in the last one, but only because it was forced through Patrick Dorgu's injury for Matheus Cunha to come in. And that's been the theme and the pattern that we've seen under Carrick so far, is that he doesn't change it unless he absolutely has to. And to be fair, he's got no reason to, because the performances have been so good and the results have been coming as well. So I wasn't surprised in that respect. I felt like up until the red card, Cristian Romero, not Sergio Romero, we should clarify, Cristian Romero, and to the point that he got sent off, I thought it was a pretty even game, to be honest. I thought United would have a spell, Tottenham would have a spell. And, you know, I think we'd all... Like Tottenham, they haven't been great this season, right? I think that's fair to say. But it was a more even and more evenly contested game than we were expecting, I think, in those moments. The red card changes it hugely. I don't know what you guys think about the red card. I still can't really make my mind up about it. It's obviously it could have seriously injured Casemiro, and I think when any player's ankle sort of bends in that shape, you automatically think, well, this guy's walking. But it felt like he didn't really intend to do it, Romero. So I wasn't too sure on whether it was more of an orange. I know we were having this debate in the press box as well. Whether the rights and wrongs of that, whatever, I think from that point onwards, United were totally in the ascendancy, and really put their foot down on the game in like around the second half, and just started, pinning Tottenham back, having a lot of opportunities around the box. And once it goes 2-0, well, absolutely deserved. So, yeah, in the end, a bit of an easier game than expected. No doubt helped by the red card, but totally deserved 3 points for United.
I watched it. My first reaction was, that's Argentina against Brazil. My first reaction was, oh no, I really don't want to miss Casemiro. He's become an important player. And he was wincing in pain at the start. And it was an aggressive tackle. But when I watched it back, and we have the luxury of doing that, which most people in the stadium don't do, I thought that wouldn't have been a red card 20 years ago. It was aggressive. It was Romero. It was his 9th red card of his career. Does that go against him or not? He's been in the news anyway, so I think he's got a really difficult next few weeks, months ahead as a Tottenham Hotspur player. I do think it was a red. But I have seen Manchester United players go in like that and the crowd roar. I don't think there was malicious intent. I think he did go for the ball, but he got, it was a follow through, wasn't it? And he got Casemiro's ankle. And it did change the game. And that's not the first time that's happened this season at Old Trafford. Chelsea lost a player early on, didn't they? So thankfully, Manchester United have capitalised on it. But then one of you is just going to say, what about Everton? And I'm going to be, yeah, that's a pretty bad point, that, isn't it?
Okay, let's do it then. When Spurs go down to 10, were you thinking more this could be like Chelsea, or were you thinking this could be like Everton?
I mean, personally, I was thinking this could be like Everton, because I think that result and that performance has stuck in my craw. And I don't know about you lot, but it felt like so much went wrong that night, and it sort of defined everything that was going wrong for United at that particular moment in time, that you immediately jump back to that. But let's say it, a lot's changed. A lot has changed, and there's more optimism, there's more positivity around Old Trafford. I don't think it was almost like that night against Everton, the onus suddenly came on United to go and put the game away. And it was such an extraordinary way for those Everton players, well, for Idrissa Gueye to get sent off, and the altercation that preceded it. So that almost just made it a bit of a weird night. I don't know if there was that same sense this time. And it was just, there is a better mood. And I think people looked, as I said before, for United to go on from that point and really put their foot on Tottenham's neck. And that's what happened. It helps, I think, that the goal follows pretty soon afterwards, fairly soon afterwards. And it's also a really nicely worked set piece, one that we hadn't really seen before. We're used to watching United score set pieces this season now. They're so effective at them, but they're finding different ways of doing it as well, which suggests that it's not simply a hangover from some of the routines and some of the things that Amrim's and his coaches were putting in place. But Michael Carrick is also bringing his ideas to the table, and he was paying credit to Johnny Evans and Keita Hasegawa, one of the performance analysts at half-time, saying that it was their work that had led to that. So I think the fact that the goal followed quickly really helped. And you just didn't have that same sense of foreboding about it. The longer it went on against Everton without United scoring, the more worried you got. The fact that there wasn't that big period between the red card and the goal here really helped.
Interesting that you mentioned Keita there, because I didn't see the manager say that. He's from Japan, if I'm not mistaken. And I just think we mentioned that because there's very few people from Japan working in the Premier League, and Premier League is global. And if someone like him can come in, and he's a lovely lad. He studied at Liverpool, John Moores University, did that course, what lots of people do. And I'm glad that he mentioned him, because he's finding his way. In answer to your question, Carl, I was more nervous after 70 minutes than I was before United got the first goal. Critch is totally right about the way that first goal was worked. But I felt United dominated so much in the second half, and maybe even overplayed, couldn't get that second goal. And because of my fragile confidence in the team still, I'm thinking Spurs are going to get an equaliser here, even though it was something like 23 shots against 7 in Manchester United's favour. So that second goal, 79th minute, really good goal, that brought relief. Because when you go 2-0 up, then you feel, all right, they're not. But there were actually times when Manchester United have rocked, having led 2-0. So United were, I think they were pretty thorough. I don't think it was a bells and whistles performance where you're like, he was absolutely amazing. Someone asked me who my man in a match would be, and I'm like, yeah, no one was jumping out. I was thinking like 3 or 4 players, like Kobbie Mainoo or Bruno or Casemiro. But I am absolutely fine with all this. Beating Tottenham 2-0, this is how it should be. I don't know what the pre-match team talk was, but Michael Carrick should have just written the word Bilbao and just put it above the dressing room door. And if that works, which obviously I'm talking nonsense now, when he plays Everton in a few weeks, because Everton are picking up form, just 10 men at Old Trafford just to jog him, get him vengeful. But 4 points against Tottenham this season now, 4 points against Fulham this season. We're turning a corner. We carry on at this rate now. We're on for 68 points, which is absolute Champions League. Would you lads accept Europa League now? I probably would, but I reckon most of the listeners are going, nah. Where's your ambition?
It'd be tough to accept Europa League now, and I feel like a hypocrite saying that, because I know how many times we have sat on this podcast talking about 6th, 7th, 8th, and I don't know how many times we must have said that during the November period. But it would feel like a little bit of a disappointment now, simply because you look at the table and the opportunity is there. And United have beaten City, they've beaten Arsenal. If they can beat those two, they can beat any team in this league. And it's just a matter of putting a run of wins together. Now, I don't know how long we've been saying that as well, but it's finally happening. And you talk it, look, if you look at the main contenders, there's question marks over everybody. You know, Chelsea, new manager, Liverpool haven't been themselves. Villa, are they falling off a little bit? United have one advantage over all those teams, and it's that they're playing with big open weeks where, you know, we've spoke about this all season in terms of whether it can be an advantage or a disadvantage, and are we seeing the fruits of the extra work on the training ground. But particularly once you get to this point, you know, when they're in European competition, when they've got huge games against top sides from around the continent, and United can just focus on themselves and getting into that top 4 or top 5 or whatever it needs to be, I think that's a massive advantage at this point. And so to not press home that advantage and to not simply like deliver the results that I think we know that this squad has a level of ability to achieve, then that would be disappointing, I think. So look, I think they have to get Champions League from here. I'm not saying that I would judge them differently for not doing so, but it feels like the opportunity is there and they need to take it.
Manchester United have won 4 Premier League games in a row for the first time since February 2024 under Erik ten Hag. They are now also unbeaten in their last 8 games with 5 wins and 3 draws, which is their longest run since January to February 2022 under, this form here says under Ralf Rangnick, but that just doesn't feel right. Thomas Frank, in his post-match press conference, said that this is a Manchester United team in flow and with confidence. Is it just now everything's in its right place? Everything's coming off easy? Or are there still things that you are a little bit concerned about?
I'm a little bit concerned because I feel that, you know, when Cristian is saying the November period, there's some pretty grim time. That said, consistently since the start of this season, Manchester United have been significantly better than last season. There were improvements. You know, Critch mentioned some of the teams United beat. Chelsea at Old Trafford was another one of them. I just look back, Carl, at that 24 4-game winning streak, because I don't remember that being particularly notable, and maybe why when I tell you who we beat. Luton Town, who were goners, beat them away 2-1. Villa away, that was a good win. West Ham at home and Wolves away in a 4-3 where Mainu got that brilliant winner after 97 minutes. But back then United was 7th and moved up to 6th, and later on in that year, Erik ten Hag would lose his job, and those 4 straight wins were followed by 2 straight defeats. I feel really encouraged by the mood, by Carrick, but I also know this can't go on. They can't win every game this season. I don't know how good this Manchester United team is. You can't be absolutely convinced in your opinion that you're not good enough to win the league, and then, wait a minute, you've just beaten City and just beaten Arsenal. how good are we? But it's a nice problem to have. I think he's benefited from Martinez coming back, really important. Harry Maguire's playing well. We touched on Luke Shaw last week, playing every week. Lammens, the goalkeeper's been good if you think of the wobbles under Onana at the start of the season. So the convergence of all of this talent, the lads coming back from AFCON. Mbumo's had a really good first season. Cunha's having his moments. Bruno Fernandes is really influential. We're getting the best version of Casemiro we could have hoped for. Kobbie Mainoo's fitted in so well, and is playing so well that it's all sort of clicking together. And he's got options on the bench as well. It's lovely, isn't it, this?
A standing ovation for Casemiro as he got substituted off in, I want to say, 87 minutes for Manu Ugarte. Another standing ovation, I want to call it a standing ovation, for Mainu as he goes off, for Tyler, son of Darren Fletcher, as well. So there's youth, there's courage, and there's some success in this 4-game run, right, Critch?
Nicely put. Yeah, definitely. I think Mainu was great today, I thought. But also great in the small sort of often overlooked ways. The little shift of his own weight that he does and the manipulation of the ball that he has just before the second goal, where Tell's sort of pressing him and he just moves the ball away from him, slides it to Dalot, and that creates the space for the cross that goes in and Bruno puts in at the back post. It's little things like that in that area of the pitch that I just feel like they weren't there when he wasn't in the team. Or you'd be looking to Bruno to do that. You'd be looking to Cunha to do that. And if they weren't around, if they weren't on the best form, then it wasn't happening. He has that ability to just shift his body, create some space, and make something happen. And it doesn't always, it's not the most flashy thing, but it's important. It's the building blocks. It's the foundation. And I think that's what he's brought back. Casemiro, again, superb. I thought it's becoming like we've described it as a farewell tour, isn't it? And I feel like there's almost people in the stadium each time who want to pay their respect for Casemiro and just see him one more time before he goes, because he is in that vein of form at the minute. You asked about whether there's any worries. I do sort of think that sometimes, look, against City and Arsenal, they could be compact, they could sit in a little bit, they didn't have to press so high. And I think that suited particularly that midfield pair as well. At Fulham, it looked like they were getting played through a little bit more. Fulham were finding a bit more space, breaking the press often. And then today, again, go back to that first half hour before it's 11 versus 10, and it felt a much more even game. And I just wonder whether we're going to, that card changed the game. It just fundamentally did. And I think I said after the City and Arsenal game that I don't know if we'll see exactly what we can expect from a Michael Carrick team until maybe a month or 6 weeks from now. We're getting towards that point, closer and closer. I still don't think we're quite there yet. I still think there's some things that you want to see in the performance that's maybe a little bit more controlled, but these are maybe the trade-offs and the balances that Carrick is having to make. And so far they're paying off for him. So that's all well and good. I just wonder what else are we going to learn over the next couple of weeks, and that's going to be really interesting to see.
They've not gone a goal down yet. How do you think they might respond to that?
I mean, they have not gone a goal down, I think, but then they have been pegged back both last week against Fulham and against Arsenal the week before, and they've responded by going up and scoring a winner, which isn't a bad way to respond. So I almost feel like, there's your answer, that they've got that mentality clearly, and you can feel that coursing through the players at times. So I wouldn't be necessarily concerned about that.
Well, we're going to find out soon enough. Don't know when that's going to be, but I felt United were the better team when the sending off happened. Right from the start, Mbeumo had a shot over the bar in the opening minute. Casemiro had that shot from distance, which drew a decent save. Spurs, after about 15 minutes, had 5 or 6 minutes where it was looking equal. But I think United were comfortably the better side, and most of the players are doing well. You can tell that the confidence is up. You can tell that training is good. All the things we wrote in that article about Michael Carrick on Friday, these aren't lies. These are actually happening. People aren't, when we're all speaking to our contacts, they're not going, yeah, but they're coming back to us saying pretty positive things at the moment. And you're seeing a reflection of that. And I think the change, reverting to a more familiar formation has worked, the players being back. This is a poor Tottenham team, but I don't really carry that argument because it was a poor Tottenham team in October. And United have come a cropper against loads of poor teams.
It was a poor Tottenham team last season, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah.
They beat them 4 times.
Exactly. So, no, it's good. I think we need to see what happens when there's a slump. Hopefully there won't be a slump. We can't make comparisons with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but that's not even fair because Michael Carrick's a different human being to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But it's that because he was an interim stroke caretaker. But it's good. There's big games. It's a shame that we're going to enter a period pretty soon where there's no games for ages. I mean, there's no game at Old Trafford now for 3 weeks. And that's pretty normal till the end of the season. And that ain't great either, because when that ground's full and everyone's buzzing for it, it's a good place to be at the moment.
It is. One thing I've noticed just in the last 2 or 3 games, the United players seem to be talking to each other just a little bit more, improvising a little bit more. Partway through the first half, there was a moment where Bruno went to Ahmad and said, switch. And you saw Bruno on the right-hand side, and they started hitting some 1-2s, trying to get to the back post. And then the second goal against Spurs is Bruno on the left as well. So there seems to be a little bit more personal responsibility or a little bit more freedom to go, I've spotted something, I'm going to try and do this.
I think that's Bob Onkar. I think you're absolutely spot on. Like, Bruno gave his interview to TNT at the end, and he was talking about, well, they asked him directly what's changed under Michael Carrick. Obvious question, everyone wants to know. And the first thing he said was that, he has given us the responsibility to have more freedom. And those can be two quite contrasting ideas sometimes, but they are able to, it sounds like they're able to do things on the pitch that are perhaps make their own decisions, make their own choices. And that would lead to them, perhaps suggesting, why don't we switch here, you switch there. And I think sometimes there needs to be that level of trust between a coach and his players. I'm not saying Ruben Amorim necessarily didn't have that with the rest of the squad, but, sometimes they need to be trusted to figure things out for themselves. And I think you can see that in the way that Bruno's playing at the minute. I mean, Carrick was asked afterwards if he's the most informed player in the league. I think we've said that ourselves on this podcast. I don't think there's an argument anymore. His level of creative ability at this moment is just beyond basically anyone else. I was looking up because I'm going to write the match piece about him, and I should have written it by now, but I'm still in the process of it. I looked up a stat before. Chances created, I think he's on 74 for the season. Do you know the next most is Declan Rice on 47? I mean, that is a different stratosphere from anybody else in the league. And that's been consistent this season, whether he's playing as a 10, whether he's playing deeper as he was under Ruben Amorim. But you're seeing it in the last few games that he has got that freedom and that, license to do as he sees fit. And I think it's really suiting him and it's really helping United.
Andy, is this the best version of Bruno Fernandes in a United shirt for you?
Were you one of the ones who cheered when he did that Rabona today? I mean, it looked lovely, but it actually went straight to Vicario, didn't it? So it wasn't that effective. But Critch is quite right with the stats, with how effective Bruno is. He's always looking to have a go. He's having shots. That finish and get this in your match piece. Maybe it looked easy, but I reckon it was a really hard finish. For that second one.
Comes off his shin, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've got another stat for you for your match piece. That was his 200th goal involvement as a Manchester United player.
It's already in there, but don't worry, you can have
sweet.
A co-byline anyway.
Imagine for that. I mean, Bruno set up Mbumo after 25 seconds. After 9 minutes, he scuffed the shot. Maybe he could have taken more of a shot there. So he's everywhere. He's buzzing. And I think Michael Carrick, tactically, you see this really calm figure who doesn't give much away. But I speak to people, and someone told me yesterday that before the derby in training, he's like, Man City are going to expect you to pass in the ball back. Do the opposite. Just get right into them. Hit the ball forward quickly because they're not going to be expecting it. So there's a newness. And I said this before the City podcast, Guardiola won't know what to expect here. And so you're benefiting from that. And it's how they then react if there's adverse situation. I keep saying this and I don't even like it because I'm preparing myself mentally for when there's a little bit of a slump. But it doesn't need to come, does it? Could just basically win everything, probably finish second this year if you win everything, but get into the Champions League. And if he carries on like this, we'll be European champions at the end of next season. Sweet.
So it's 200 goal involvements in 314 appearances for Manchester United. That's 104 goals and 96 assists. It might have been one more assist if Benjamin Sesko had decided to chest it and smash it in the final seconds rather than go with his head. But Critch, is that he needs to get another trim?
No, I've already made my thoughts clear on the trim. Like I say, diet peroxide blonde and that goes in. Maybe, who knows? No, I thought like it was rough. Sesko could have done a lot better than that. Bruno looked absolutely devastated when it didn't go in. Like, I know it was the end of the game and the final whistle went, and maybe he was just knackered, but he was laid out on his back after that. I think he was begging for a 201st goal involvement in 314 appearances, which he would have absolutely deserved. So, look, Sesko, I think what we can say is that when he comes on in games at the minute, he is getting involved and having an impact. That sounds like I'm damning him with faint praise. I'm not. I just mean that he is like, he's having an impact in the sense that he's getting on the end of things. It's just not always quite going right. But, you know, he's still young. It's tough coming on at the end of games in limited minutes and trying to do that. And so he'll probably be putting his head on the pillow tonight and thinking about that chance, but there'll be more to come.
Am I allowed to nominate Tottenham for the worst song I've heard at Old Trafford this year? It was, it went waka waka, hey, hey, waka waka, hey, hey, blah, 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 blah. We won in Bilbao. I'm just like, what? That is terrible. And I respect Tottenham. They're a proper football club, but you're singing that. And then they sang it again. I'm like, I'm absolutely wincing for you here. I mean, if you're them, you're going to rub in as much as you can about Bilbao. They were singing that they're European champions. I'm like, you're not really, are you? You've just won the Europa League.
That's a stretch, isn't it? Come on.
It's a stretch. But then if you're Tottenham and you win everything every 200 years, you're going to stretch it, aren't you, to be fair to them? I don't blame them. But singing, who sang that? Shakira? Singing Shakira songs?
You know that. You know the answer to that.
You know that.
I'm not digging myself another Spice Girl hole.
Right then. Before we move on, we just want to say congratulations to United's women's side. They beat Leicester City 2-0 away from home. They are now firmly ensconced in the Champions League places, second place. Sorry, I'm going to do some bad mental maths here. That took me a while. 7 points off Manchester City at top, and they've got one game in hand over Chelsea, who play later on. They are looking likely to play Champions League football next season. All good, all grand. Now, very quickly, let's preview West Ham away on Tuesday. Critch, are Nuno's West Ham good now?
They've picked up a bit of form, haven't they? And I don't think that's necessarily unsurprising because, you know, we know what Nuno can put a team together. He can make them compact, he can make them disciplined, he can make them organised, and he can get results ultimately. No, they've had a win today against Burnley as well, which has really helped them in their situation. But let's not make any bones about it. Like, on the back of 4 wins, 4 very good to decent performances by United, they should be going to West Ham and picking up 3 points. Otherwise, we'll be talking about more drop to teams in the bottom, whatever it is, 7, 8. I lost count now. But it has to look. They did well. Look, they were organised at Old Trafford in December as well, weren't they? But I think United still, even in that game, had enough chances to win it. As abject as the performance was, so we'll all be expecting that anything less than 3 points will be really disappointing.
United don't have the best form against West Ham in recent weeks, seasons, however you want to describe it. Andy, how confident should we be about this?
I think it's a tricky one. Some of the worst Manchester United performances in recent years, consistently so, have been at West Ham. Thankfully, the pitch is miles from the stands, so you don't really need to see it as if it was close up at some of the other grounds. I think West Ham have got a lot of very decent players. I said players, not team, Carl. I'm not giving them that credit. And I think they had a really tough season. They've obviously changed the manager. They're now in form. I listened to the game last week against Chelsea. I think they went 2-0 up and lost that one 3-2. Their home form is the 19th best in the table. So Burnley have got a better home form than West Ham. And there's a lot of resentment about the way their new stadium's working out. It doesn't feel like Upton Park, etc. And I think that comes to the fore when the team are as bad at home as West Ham are. I think we're catching them at a difficult time, but then we caught Fulham at a difficult time. And Everton beat Fulham away today. That's going to be a difficult one as well. I watched West Ham against Forest a few months back, and I was really struck by how many empty seats there were against the official attendance. And it's a new, I mean, West Ham is a historic club, but there's a lot of people who've started going to West Ham since he moved to the stadium. And I think the fan base is finding its feet. And there's a lot of people who miss the West Ham of old. And I think that's genuine. I more believe that than this old West Ham way that, when David Moyes gets them to like 7th and wins them a European trophy, they're like, nah, it's not good enough. With Bobby Moore and all these boys, we were champions every season. No, you didn't. You didn't win anything. David Moyes has done an absolutely brilliant job here. No, he's got to go. It's the West Ham way. Should be the best team in the world. I think it's a tough game. I think it's a really, really tough game.
Well done for remembering that West Ham changed manager, because Graham Potter's time in charge is a real blink and you'll miss it pub quiz answer there. They've invested heavily in the January transfer window. They brought in Adama Traore, who had an interesting back and forth with João Pedro and Mark Cucurella last week. New squad coming together, strong on the counter-attack. Could this be the sort of low block challenge that many people thought Manchester United versus Fulham was going to be, Critch?
Okay, yeah, I guess it will be, I suppose. I don't look, we all said we spent a week talking about that and then it didn't turn out to be the case. So are we really going to do that again? I know we've only got a couple of days till this one.
We don't have to if you don't want to. We can talk about another threat they have.
It makes sense, doesn't it? And you've got to be wary of that. I agree, like Adama Traore, he can be an intimidating opponent. As João Pedro found out, but that's probably his biggest contribution in a West Ham shirt so far, isn't it? It was a great moment. I loved the look on João Pedro's face as he realised what situation he was suddenly in. Absolutely hilarious. But I've seen Adama Traore play at Chorley at Victory Park, actually, and get sent into the benches and the sideline. Even though he's such a unit, I saw a couple of Chorley players go into him and absolutely send him outside for a hot dog and into the sides. So if they can deal with him, exactly. If they can deal with him, then I'm sure United can.
He said, I sent him to the gym on the opening day of the season where Joshua Zirkzee scored the winner. So there's been some spicy back and forth between Traore and some United fans in the past, and this could be another spicy game on Tuesday too.
I think it will be. I can't believe that Chorley's got yet another mention in this podcast.
If you are going to keep having me on, I'm just going to have to keep crowbarring it in there. Sorry. You brought it up the first time as well.
Yeah, I've seen my brother play at Chorley. Top old little non-league club Chorley, with the ground unchanged in about 100 years. Do you know what they've started doing? Because it's pretty well located near the motorway, they've started inviting away fans of every club who goes to the northwest of England to have a drink in Chorley. And I thought that's just a nice little idea to knit it all together. One other thing, which is absolutely nothing to do with what you just asked me, Carl, but I think it's quite interesting. It is defo interesting. Toby Collier came on for Hull City today, and we sort of said that was going to happen, didn't we? But what is interesting is he replaced Paddy McNair, who used to play for Manchester United. And I'm thinking, that is a name from like Louis van Gaal era. And they lost as well. So not that interesting, but worth mentioning on a Manchester United podcast, given he's a contracted Manchester United player.
Right then, I'm going to go to a quote Bruno Fernandes said post Spurs to TNT, which was, when we win games, the confidence goes higher and higher. It's very important for us to maintain the focus and not overdo it now. This is very good and very nice, but we need to keep going. And it's as simple as that right now. Just you need to keep going. Same again against West Ham, Gritch?
I think, yeah, it has to be. The momentum's there now, and it hasn't always been there at points this season. I think, as I said before, you can see that the players have that little bit more freedom, that little bit more confidence within themselves to do the things that they're doing on the pitch. And that needs to be carried forward. Now, you mentioned about the low block. So that's actually the sort of thing that you need in order to break down those systems. You know, you can get too in deep on what your tactical setup needs to do in order to, and overloads and switching the play and whatever, all this stuff. If you've got players out there making their own decisions on the pitch, making their own choices, having that sort of imagination and freedom, then that's when unexpected things happen. And that's when teams that are really well drilled and organised like West Ham have to get outside their own comfort zone. And that's that's where the space appears. So I think, that has to be the template going into this. I agree with Andy. Look, maybe I was getting a little bit carried away, even though we've been told, and Michael Carrick's told us not to. Maybe I was getting a little bit carried away at the start, thinking this is just an easy 3 points. It's absolutely not, because West Ham are fighting for their lives down there, and they know, especially having got the result that they've got today, that they just need to keep picking up points, and they need to draw Forest in. Forest lost, didn't they, Leeds last night, and so there's a real opportunity for them there. And I sort of agree that you're walking into this game at the wrong time to walk into this game, just like the Fulham one in terms of the form. But at the end of the day, United have the quality, and I think they have the rhythm, and like I say, just the momentum behind them at the minute, where you're expecting them to go there and cause them problems.
West Ham have been in the relegation zone ever since that game against Manchester United. That was the 14th match of the season. We're now about to play the 26th of the season. So we're talking about them being in form, but they haven't budged from 18th. But 3 wins out of 4, and those wins, well, they beat Tottenham. Everyone beats Tottenham. Sunderland at home. Sunderland seem to be falling away a bit. The fact that they were good enough to go 2 up against Chelsea. Chelsea are really in form. They worry me a little bit. And then Burnley have won, I think, 1 in 16. It's going to be 62,000 people there. It's going to be slightly rare for Manchester United because they don't have a week to prepare for it. So that is a new one on Michael Carrick. But yeah, hopefully we'll get another result. I mean, if we win this one, I'll be like, whoa. But then I would have said the same this morning.
If we win this one, we'll be like, whoa. That leads me to a question sent in by Mahir, saying, looking at the fixtures remaining, and there are games against Villa, Chelsea and Liverpool to come, which are currently the teams immediately around United. Is it realistic to think if United win those games, brackets, and it's a big if, admittedly, there is a 3rd place finish on offer? Does anyone want to take this question?
I think it's realistic. I think there's a 2nd place finish on offer.
Oh,
there is. Look, like I said, okay, look, we don't know what, at this time of recording, what the result between Liverpool and City is going to be tomorrow. If City lose that game, United are 3 points behind them. They're in 2nd place. Like, are you telling me it's not on? You're telling me if City beat them and it's 6 points, that's still not on at the minute? This City team's quite erratic. They're not of the absolute Guardiola vintage in terms of control, in terms of just putting teams away. Yes, we know they go on their runs at certain points in the season, but it doesn't feel like that's coming at any point. But why not? Why not? Honestly, why not? I don't see. If there's one thing we've learned this season, it's just about any team can beat any other team in the league on any given weekend. That's been the case all the way through. And United have finally started to put a run together. I'm not going to say it's going to last forever, but I think there's no reason to not think that anybody's catchable apart from maybe Arsenal. Look, I'll concede the league title in this answer. I'll concede the league title, but I think anything else is absolutely fair game if United can just carry on in the form and the momentum that they're in. Now, I'm not expecting it to last forever and ever, but I feel like we've seen maybe not the true level, but the best level of this team over the last couple of weeks, and that can be maintained for a little bit longer.
Is it a success for Michael Carrick that we can now answer questions with? Why not?
Yeah, it is. There's not a huge difference between 2nd and 4th. To me, clearly it's better to finish in 2nd, but if you reach in playing Champions League football through your league finish, that is I was going to say major success. It's a clear pass for Michael Carrick. It's a clear pass for this season, and Ruben Amorim's played a part, but Michael Carrick has got the players achieving in areas where Amorim could not. I'm preparing myself because it's going to be bumpy. I'd take 4th all day long if you ask me now. I've seen a couple of giddy things going, let's go for the title in the last week or so. And then Arsenal are now 9 points clear. We've got obviously City playing Liverpool, but I didn't think that I thought that top 3 was set a few weeks ago. And now Villa have stumbled. It's Chelsea, it's Manchester United. And if Liverpool win their game in hand, United are just consolidating that 4th, which they really struggled to do. It is a real shame that we don't have European football, that we don't have FA Cup football. It's a real shame that you've got players who are not going to get opportunities. I mean, if you're Aidan Heaven or Lenny Yoro, when are you getting a game? And that is not good at all. And one thing I found out by doing that piece on Carrick is it's needing like Jonathan Woodgate and Johnny Evans to do extra individual sessions with players like the two I've just mentioned, because they're not getting minutes. So there's loads going on. Loads of it is absolutely positive. With West Ham, they have gone big. I watched Argentine striker Tati Castellanos quite a lot when he played in Spain. I know he's been from Lazio and that's where they signed him from, but he was actually in that City group of football. They got him from Uruguay and then they took him to New York City, and then he went to Girona where he did well. And I always liked him. I didn't know how good his level would be, but if he can establish himself in the Premier League, it's hard for any striker to establish themselves in the Premier League, but he was someone who I liked when I watched him coming through.
Andy's just name dropped a wonderful piece he's collaborated on with Mark and with Laurie on what's going on at Carrington with Michael Carrick and his coaching staff in particular, including some homework from Steve Holland, helping dot the I's and cross the T's amongst the Man United players. And I highly recommend you subscribe and you give it a read. I think it's a fantastic piece. I also have worked on a piece about Cunha and his long-range shooting and why he's able to generate so much power on his shots from afar. Keep an eye on it. It's really, really fun when he winds up. And also, don't forget, you can email in to our inbox, devilspod@theathletic.com, with your questions, queries, thoughts, and suggestions. We're also really interested to know what you're going to be doing in this post-West Ham break where there's no United for a while. If you're going on holiday, if you're going to a non-league ground, if you're just going to go out in the world and feed some ducks, let us know.
I went to a non-league ground today, Carl, after Old Trafford. I left after 90 minutes and I went to Gig Lane to watch Trafford FC, and it was an absolute horrendous afternoon for them. They lost 9-0. So, yeah, but Manchester United more than... it's nice that Little Bury FC are back up and running, and I think the strength of English football is also, it's not just about the big clubs, it's about the pyramid. That was an 8th tier game today, over 3,000 people there. And if you do have more time, because Manchester United never play, try and get out and support these teams. They really need your support. A lot of them are run by volunteers. No one's making any money out of them. And get out and do it. Do it this season, because it's a one-off, because where we're going back into Europe. We're going to smash everyone.
Have you ever seen a 10-0, Andy? In person, I mean.
I don't think so. When it was 8-0 after 61 minutes today, I thought I was about to see like an 11 or 12-0. I can't recall seeing 10 of you.
I hate to bring up Chorley again for the third time in the podcast, but I saw us beat Droylsden 13-1 once, which was a pretty good day.
13-1? We
were 5-0 up inside the first 10 minutes, I think. So I had all kinds of numbers floating through my head at that point, but no, 13-1 in the end.
That is
so Carl,
tremendous.
He's just mentioned Droylsden there, and I think really they're called the Bloods. They're from East Manchester. They're another club who went under and have come back. And as recently as 2008, Droylsden were playing 5th tier football.
Yeah.
And it's great that the local community has rescued this club. You need to tell us about some of the ones near West Ham's ground in your manor. Is Clapton over that way? Oh,
I can tell you some stories about that football club from back in the day. Trust me. There was some money laundering going on, etc., etc., etc.
This podcast is taking a direction I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to tell me about old Nancy, the kit lady who's been there for 72 years.
Right then. That wraps up this episode of Talk of the Devils. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you were listening or watching us on YouTube. Hi. We're going to be back on Wednesday following the game against West Ham, whatever happens. Ian Irvin's going to be back in the host's chair, and there's going to be probably some more squad rotation. Michael Carrick's not changing his starting 11, but it's a barrel of laughs over here. Other than that, don't forget to use our email inbox, devilspod@theathletic.com, for whatever you've got on your mind Manchester United-wise. But we're going to be back on Wednesday, whatever happens. Take care.
Thanks for watching this episode of Talk of the Devils. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you've not done already. Like the video and also get involved in the comments too. And click the bell to make sure that you never miss an episode with myself, Andy Mitten, Carl Anker and Laurie Whitwell. There's also our social channels @TOT Devils on Instagram, X and TikTok. Thanks for watching.